just pour love into everyone as much as possible because, again, it's cliche to say, but it's like you never know when it's like the last conversation. Yeah.
Alysen, it's good to see you here.
Nice to see you as well.
Last week, Alysen was here for Roland's episode. That was, if we're talking in the future, his episode was last week, and she was sitting as a voyeur on the side, and now you're here as a guest.
Yes.
So tell me what you're doing here.
I'm back to, talk about somebody that passed in my life, one of the most important people, my father. That's why I'm back, to have that discussion.
There we go. I mean, it's one, minor thread that we have in common, both losing our dads. And remind me, you lost him at a young age, no?
Yeah, my father passed away when I was 10.
Okay, I was 12, so
yeah.
A little earlier than me. So feel free to, I'm not sure how many times you've told this story, but what happened to your father?
So literally going back in my memory, I remember it as just like a normal day. I know my dad and my brother used to play basketball every Sunday. They would go out and play basketball, and it was like a normal day. Like they were getting ready to go play basketball. I remember them coming down the stairs. Like I gave my dad a kiss. I was like, bye, bro. And then like they left and went to go play basketball. And that was the last time I ever saw my dad. And after that, it was like a weird array of events that kind of happened around it. Looking back now, I could tell my mom was just doing a lot of things to kind of like protect me. My mom actually serves in the military. So we were home with my dad at the time, and my mom was serving in New Jersey.
Okay.
So my mom wasn't even home. So I remember being home, and then I got a call that my neighbor was going to come pick me up, like my next door neighbor, shouts out Krish and Lily, were going to pick me up and take me to McDonald's. They were like, oh, do you want to go to McDonald's with Krish and Lily? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I love McDonald's. So like they picked me up and we went to McDonald's, and I remember Krish getting like a phone call, and like her whole like demeanor kind of changed, and like we finished eating, but then I remember her telling me like, okay, your Uncle David is going to come pick you up, which was like a very close family friend of mine, who also is like the father of my childhood best friends. Like both of our families kind of like were joint at the hip, like raising us and growing up. So they told me my Uncle David was going to come pick me up, and I was like, oh, okay, awesome. And they told me I was going to spend the night at my best friend's house. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, sounds good. So like I went back home, I got clothes to go spend the night at my best friend's house. Did that. The next day, my Uncle David was like taking me back to my house. And the last thing he said before I got out the car, he was like, Allie, I just want to let you know that like, I really love you so much, and I'll always be here for you, and all this stuff. And I'm just looking at him like, okay, love you too, Uncle David. Like, what's, like.
Is that a little out of the...
It was so out of the ordinary. Like, normally it'd be like, okay, Allie, love you, like, had fun, But I could tell, like, it was like a different energy he was like putting forth in that goodbye. Like, it was very like if you ever need me, like, I'm here type of thing. And I was just like, okay, Uncle David, like, I know, like.
Stop it, you weirdo.
Exactly. I was like, what is really going on here? Like, that's strange. Then I remember walking to my door, and my mom opened the door. And again, my mom was in New Jersey serving. So like my mom opens the door, and I'm like, what is my mom doing here? I'm like, hey, Mom, like, what's up? And as she opens the door, like my aunt was also in the house, and then my dad's boss was in the house as well, and another close friend of my mom's was in the house as well. So I walked in, and I'm like, okay, like, hi everybody, like, what's up? And then I see this look on my mom's face, and she's just like, okay, like, we just need to have a talk. And I'm like, okay, like, what's up? What's going on? She's like, let's talk upstairs. So she takes me upstairs, and we go into the master bedroom, and she starts going into like detail about like heaven and all these things and all this stuff. And I'm like 10 years old, and I think I'm like the smartest person ever. And I'm like, Mom, I know what happened. It's okay. And then she was like, what? And I was like, Grandma passed away.
Oh, man.
And I was so sure, like, because she's talking about heaven, she's doing all these things. My family members are here, she's here. And my grandma was like kind of sick at the time too. So that was like what I rationalized in my brain. So wow. I was like, yeah, Grandma passed away. And the look on my mom's face, like, I know she was just like, I can't believe I have to tell my daughter this right now. Yeah. Like, this is insane. So she turns to me and she was like, no, actually, like, your father passed away. And honestly, that's like the last thing that I remember, honestly, because I feel like my mind kind of went blank at that point. Mm-hmm. So she said that, and I remember her talking, but then I told my mom, I was like, can you give me a second? And she was like, okay. And I was like, I need to be by myself. And she was like, okay.
Wow.
So she leaves me in the master bedroom, and I remember I just like start crying and kind of just saying like, God, like, why me? Like, I was like, why did this happen to me? I'm very confused, and I'm just like crying, laying in the bed, just very intense. But background story as to how it happened. So my brother and my dad, they go out to play basketball, and on their way back, my brother had his driver's permit at the time. I believe he was 15 or 16, and my dad wasn't feeling good, and he was like, Derek, can you drive? Like, I'm not feeling good. So my brother was like, yeah, of course. So my brother starts driving, and then literally my dad has like a massive heart attack in the passenger seat. And like, still to this day, honestly, I have not talked to my brother about it. Like, I'm actually like very, not excited, but like I'm ready to send this podcast to him just so he can like see and hear like how I feel about it. But yeah, so my dad ends up having the heart attack next to my brother, and my brother's the one who has to call 911, try to resuscitate him, get him to the hospital, like all those things. And that was another reason why I never wanted to bring it up to my brother, because I just never wanted him to relive that moment of like trying to bring his dad back to life and like having to take his dad back to the hospital. Like, it's been 21 years, but like I just never would want to put my brother back in that moment in time. You know, sometimes I have questions like what was he feeling, or like what were his last words or things like that, but it's just like, I don't know. My brother is also a Pisces. Sorry, we talk about Pisces a lot. I know the listeners are like, what does that have to do with anything? But yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, I just never wanted to do that to him. But that is how he ended up passing away. He passed away in the hospital. And I remember it was a decision for my mom. It was like a vegetable situation. Like, do you want us to like, the heart attack was that massive, so it's like, he's going to be a vegetable, or like we can pull the plug, you know? So my mom had to make that decision, which is also just like a crazy decision to make. And so all these things were going on while I'm at McDonald's and at my uncle's house. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot about McDonald's.
Yeah, no, exactly. So at first when I like knew everything that was going on, I used to be so upset. Like, why was I the last person to know? Like, everybody knew except me. Like, what was really going on? But when I think about it, I know my mom was like just trying to protect me as much as possible. And like, I'm actually happy that like the last vision of my dad I have is like walking down the stairs. Like, I can't even imagine what my brother's vision is, because my brother was like in the hospital and like, you know, in those moments. And my last thing was like, love you, Dad. Like, see you later, you know? And so I'm very thankful that I had that, you know, that I got that. But yeah, that's how it all went down.
It's interesting because we have such different experiences, but I see so many similarities. And not to relay this back to me because I don't understand what you went through experientially, but you mentioned when you first talked to your mom, you remembered up to a certain point, right? Mm-hmm. And I can relate to that because I was on a podcast today talking about my story a little bit, and I only remember up to a certain point. It was the moment of finding out. So I wonder if there's a correlation there. And then it's also ironic. I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but it's kind of beautifully poetic because you were angry at your mother or your people around for not telling you, but then you understood later as to why they were protecting you. And then I'm correlating that with how you haven't had a conversation with your brother, and it seems as if you didn't have a conversation with him because you were protecting him.
Right. Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I love how this might be an outlet to maybe start that conversation. I don't want to talk about your brother because he's not here, but you know, has there ever been a moment of him expressing that he didn't want to talk about that? Because sometimes, you know, maybe talking about it is a good thing, or maybe you're exactly right about maybe he doesn't want to relive that. But sometimes I feel like reliving those experiences is also an outlet for getting that out.
Right. Maybe honestly, there hasn't been. So maybe that was just, like you said, maybe it was just my feelings of wanting to protect him and his emotions for like this long.
Yeah. Because
honestly, I do feel like my brother would be open to having the conversation. My brother is one of the like biggest family guys ever. My brother recently just had a daughter. He also has like a son on the way.
Love that.
And like he'll say things to me too, like, I know Dad would like love to see me here at this point, you know? So it's like, he still mentions my dad, and like the anniversary of my dad's day that he passed away was February 16th. And I remember him like calling my mom and myself, and he was like, yeah, I'm making dad's chili now. So he still like talks about him, you know. Maybe I'm fearful to have the conversation. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, maybe it's me.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that, because I feel like I would have came up with an asshole.
Yeah,
Just like
I'm like, maybe it's me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. You got to discover that for yourself. I'm not here to point any fingers, but that could be a thing too where, yeah, I still believe the intention is there to protect your brother.
Right.
But maybe you're protecting yourself because of what maybe will come out of it, especially losing someone at a young age, at least my own experience. And what I've heard from people that know a lot more than me on this topic, there is that, defense mechanism that the body does, especially at a young age. It almost like protects you. Now your body protects you from experiencing such overwhelming trauma.
Right.
But then sometimes that shows up down the line. So in regards to, two-part question, I guess, was there anything at that you do not remember a lot of things, even like 10, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, of that process of how you felt? Because I know I don't, so I'm curious to see if there's anything you remember how you felt.
I do. I actually do. I definitely, I grieved for, I mentioned this when I came to Rose episode, for maybe like 15 years. And it was like little things. I remember hearing like the Luther Vandross Dance with My Father song. Oh, like it was the most triggering song for me at that time. Like it would come on the radio and I would like be in the back seat driving and would just like burst into tears. And like it was just like little things. So it's like I remember distinctly, like you said, actually there's a lot that I blacked out, but there are like distinct moments, like again, that song that would just live in my memory of like, wow.
Yes, and I feel like I remember moments for sure. And I don't know if it goes, again, I don't know if I'm just blaming it straight on, trauma protection or just me being so long ago, and maybe it's a blend of both.
Right.
Because my mom always brought up a story about, and I don't remember this, but I guess I was holding it in for so long and she didn't really see, even though I cried the first time I saw the towers go down and blah, blah, blah. I'm blah, blah, blahing all over 9/11 right now. But besides that, my mom remembers a part where I like came into her bedroom and just started just like sobbing, like not just crying, like I let like all this shit out. And I don't remember that. No, I don't. And it seems like, excuse me, I don't remember that. And it seems like such a pivotal moment for me to get shit out at such a young age, experiencing that so fresh. But I don't remember that. And part of me gets pissed off that I don't remember things. So does that bother you at all that you don't remember things, or do you feel like it helped you get through it? And has anything come up later down the line?
I would say now it bothers me a little bit more. Actually, this like last Thanksgiving, my mom, she's so cute. She found a bunch of like old VHS tapes. So my Uncle David, he's like a main character in the story. He is a like Oscar nominated documentary filmmaker. And he used to document everything of us growing up. So like family parties and things like that. So for Thanksgiving, my mom like got with him and got the VHSs, and she got them, put onto like digitally remastered so we can watch them. And I remember watching them back, and like, I didn't even remember my dad's voice.
Wow.
Like hearing my dad's voice, I was like, oh, this is what my dad sounded like. And it was so trippy to me. I was like, how did I not remember like my dad's voice? Like when I think of my dad, it's kind of like a movie. It's like I see him and it's like visions and it's like there's memories, but it's weird because like the voice isn't there. So seeing those videos and seeing him engage and like seeing his personality, I'm just like, wow, like this was my dad. And I'm so thankful for my mom for like getting those VHSs and showing us that. Cause I'm like, what memories am I harboring of my dad if that's the case? Cause I'm like, I don't know. So, wow, I don't know.
I think about that too, because we have home videos all over the place, and part of me, I don't forget my dad, but there's little things that I do watch. I forget these little idiosyncrasies that he had, and it's nice to have those videos and bring stuff back. So in regards to bringing stuff back, do you remember at any point in your life having a hard time down the line, or do you feel like you, I don't know, just kind of not coasted through like it was easy, but do you remember anything that stood out, or whenever it was 2 years later, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it's been? Was there anything that specifically came up emotionally for you that you feel like you had to work out or still have to work out even?
I feel like it shows up even daily. Like even like in my dating life and having a date, and I know like it's a weird conversation to get into like dating without having a father and like, you know, like the love that you get from your father and then seeking it in men. Like it's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that shit's real.
that we can get into, you know what I'm saying? So that definitely is something that's present in my life that has to come up that I've had to work through. But just all different things, even thinking about like my wedding, you know, and things like that. And I remember having a conversation with my brother about it and just like, who's going to walk me down the aisle? My brother was like, I obviously am going to walk you down the aisle. Like, obviously, you know? And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So it's like, yeah, it's moments like that.
Have you been vocal about it? Because I'm curious, you mentioned you didn't really talk to your brother about his personal experience, but have you been vocal about it with anyone? Have you ever talked to anyone, your family, or this, that, and the other?
I feel like I've had good conversations with my mom about it, which is good. I love my mom. We're very close. We have very open conversation, very open dialogue. So like, she's the person who I can like really talk to. And then I do have a few other close friends who do know the full story and everything like that. So yeah, so I have opened up about it, which is good. It's not totally just stuff down there, but
Do you feel like there is a little stuff down?
You know what? Possibly. I feel like I've been like in and out of therapy for years. So that is something that I've like worked through. But I don't feel like the healing journey is ever really done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like it goes in waves and then different things will come up as you hit different accolades in your life and do different things. Like even right now in my career, like assuming the success that I have, like as a DJ and stuff, like I'll just be like, wow, I wish my dad was here to recognize this. Like my dad was one of the first people. One, I grew up in a very musical household, but like my dad would always buy me CDs. Like I was listening to Britney Spears the other day and I distinctly remember like, wow, this is like a CD my dad bought me. And he was like, here you go. I know you'd love this. And I'm like, I do love this Britney Spears album. You're right, Dad, you know? And like even... Wow, Usher, You Got It Bad. I just made a remix of that. Very shameless plug. But
wow, I was actually, where's the sounds at? So I'm doing, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're
this
good.
Is not worth the interruption, by the way. But I'm going to, for my birthday next week, I'm doing karaoke with my sisters. I was thinking about hitting You Got It Bad.
You have
to.
But
I was like, is that going to, besides the fact that I'm not going to be able to hit those notes, is that going to be a problem in ruining the mood in a karaoke?
No, it's a good one.
Okay.
It's a good one. Everyone's going to hit that first note.
I just went that, that's all I'm excited for.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
No, everyone's going to hit it. But like, there's actually like a distinctive memory I have of my dad of like being in the car and like us singing that back and forth. Like, you know, like that was his jam. So.
Triggers.
Yeah, exactly. Triggers.
And you mentioned the wedding. It's like those, I think that's why it's part of the healing process. As we continue going, there's new, like you kind of mentioned, there's new milestones. You change as a person regardless. So there's like new triggers that come up and things you might have not thought about at 15, 16, 17 that you're thinking about now. So it's, it is a process, but it's just, you know, it is important it took me a while to be able to talk about it. And I think there is power to just talking about it. You have to like find an answer. I feel like most of the time just getting that shit out is a relief. And then by getting it out and by saying it out loud, you start realizing things. Like you start uncovering things that you didn't even know were there. I forget what guest it was or who I spoke to, but they mentioned something of the sort. I think it was hospice nurse Julie. That's who it was. She brought up something about after grieving her friend that she didn't even know she was carrying this anger towards her friend. And Julie, if I'm butchering this, I apologize. But she was feeling some sort of resentment or anger, I believe, towards her friend who died years, like maybe even a decade before, whatever it was. And she didn't know she was carrying that the whole time until one day I think she was doing the 12-step program or something about getting sober. And she was free writing or something of the sort, and it uncovered it. So she had this feeling inside her and didn't know till years later based on some exercise or whatever she was doing about something else. And then it came out. So I feel like that happens. Whether you're intentionally doing it or not, shit just comes out when you least expect it. You don't even know what it is.
No, exactly. This Is Us. Do you watch This Is Us, or are you familiar?
No.
Oh, my
I thought you were
gosh.
talking about like Us.
Oh, you're like Us. This Is Us. No, This Is Us, the show. Like Mandy Moore.
I love Many More, but no.
Oh, my gosh.
Today? This is Many More still around?
Yes. Oh, my gosh. It's one of the most phenomenal shows. Like, I believe it has like 6 seasons, but phenomenal writing, phenomenal directing, like acting, everything. Like, Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen This Is Us, because I'm about to get into it. But one of the main storylines is how Mandy Moore's husband passed away. And it's like how the kids are coping with it. And there's like one specific scene where the dad passes away and Mandy Moore is like scrambling and doing all these things. And then she has this conversation with the dad's best friend. And he's like, how are you doing? And she was like, how do you think I'm doing? I'm about to go and have the most uncomfortable conversation with my kids ever. Like, I don't even know how to. I'm about to let them know one of like the most heartbreaking things that they'll ever hear in their life. I have to deliver this message. Like, how do you think I'm doing? And then I remember she turned to him and she was like, and you better get your stuff together and pull it together for the kids. Like, and we need to be strong for the kids. And then she walked in and delivered the message. And honestly, like after watching that, I was just like, it made my heart like melt for my mom. Like, I was just like, wow, my mom really had to do this. Like, my mom really had to like, yeah, okay, I have to go and deliver this message to my kids right now. Like, this is crazy. But that scene in particular was like very triggering, but also very like cathartic just to see. And I'm glad that they're even telling those stories, because then it makes you not feel alone. It's like, okay, more people in life are going through this. You know what I'm saying? It's not just me. Because I mean, even though it is a show, it's telling a story of like what is really going on in life. But whew, Mandy Moore took that. I'm like, I cried through that episode. I've watched that episode so many times, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's
fucking triggers, man. That's another one. What do you? General question, but what do you think you've learned the most from your experience of losing your father? Doesn't be the number one, just some things.
What I've learned the most is that, like, even though their like physical bodies may be gone, I do truly feel like his energy will always stay with me. And I know people like have said that, you hear that, like, they're always in your heart, that little thing. And you're like, yeah, whatever, as you're like grieving. But as I'm like getting older, I'm just like, no, my dad is like here with me. Like, he is here. His presence is here. And like, even when like I pray and I talk to God, like I'll have moments where I'm like, all right, Dad, like this is what I'm doing today. And I'll like kind of talk directly to him. So that's something that I've learned. I'm just like, okay, he's gone physically, but I really do strongly feel like his presence is still surrounding me. So yeah, that's definitely something that I've recognized through this experience. Probably the most distinctive.
Right. Is that experience of losing someone so young, has that changed? What is that? I guess you can't say change because, you're 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe, but what has it done to your perception of death?
It is. I have to like mentally like tell myself to be empathetic when people tell me that. Because like in my mind,
Wait, when they tell you what?
That somebody has passed away. Sorry,
okay.
I didn't finish that sentence.
It's okay.
Because now I kind of like train my brain. Like, I love my mom, but still like, it's weird. Every day I'm just like, I'm going to lose my mom. Like, I think about it every day and I'm just like, I love on her so much, but I still keep the like, okay, she is going to die. Like, which sounds very morbid, but it kind of helps me with everything. But when people deliver to me messages like this person passed away or I'm just like, okay, well, that's life. Like, I'm just so like, okay, yeah, that's just what happens. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should be nicer and more empathetic because this is like their first time losing somebody that's like, close and like serious to them. So that's something that I've learned because it's made me cynical isn't the word. It's like, I don't know, my just understanding of death is so like they're going to die.
I don't want to say desensitized, but...
No, I think that's actually a good word.
Yeah.
That's actually a good word. So as I've gotten older, I've literally tried my best when people have, close family members and stuff pass to not just go to like, yeah, that happens, like, and really think about like, how did you feel when your father passed away? That's where they're at currently. So, be there for them.
Right.
In that way.
Interesting. Okay. So it's numbed you a little bit to
it has.
Other experiences. And so that thought process of you maybe contemplating death and the mortality of your mother, does that make you embrace life differently or like the time with her? Is that what you're saying?
100%. 100%. Like, I love my mom. I actually call my mom every day. I call my mom every day. Even if we talk for like 2 minutes, I'm like, you good? Like, we're good. Even yesterday, like I called her like 4 times and she didn't answer. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, we're good. Everything is fine. And then she called me like an hour later, like, oh, I was just taking a nap. And I was like, Mom, you know you can't take naps. What are you talking about, a nap, Mom? You can't take a nap when I'm calling you. Like, are you crazy? It's so funny. But no, it's just really made me like really just appreciate my relationships and be grateful for all the relationships and friendships I have, and like just pour love into everyone as much as possible, because again, it's cliche to say, but it's like you never know when it's like the last conversation,
literally
the last time you're going to talk to
that's
somebody.
real. It's cliche. It's cliche for a reason.
For a reason, exactly.
Yeah, people say it's cliche, like, well, that's why it's a cliche, because it's real.
Exactly.
Yeah, it happens. Do you think we should be afraid of death?
I personally am not afraid of death at all. How I will die, I'm more afraid of.
Yeah,
like
I hear that.
The way I would die, drowning, shot, that is more terrifying than actually dying. I was raised Christian, and my mom is probably not going to like this portion of the podcast.
Mom, tune out.
I know, we're like, hey, Mom, we're done. But at this point in my like spiritual and religious journey, I feel like I'm a lot more spiritual now than I am religious. I am very thankful of my Christian background, and like, I love Jesus. Jesus is awesome. Shouts out to JC. I think he's an awesome teacher, but I do feel like there's other levels to spirituality that I have found more comfort in. And has helped me understand, like, even being a human on this planet, and what happens after. Like, I do believe in, like, past lives. I do believe, like, in reincarnation and things like that. So now with those beliefs, it's helped me to kind of cope with death, because I do feel like, the next time around, I will still be with my dad. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I do feel like he's in my soul family, whether or not he comes back as my dad. Like, he might be my son next, or, but I do feel that way, and it has helped me cope with a lot.
What has led you to these just gravitational feelings towards it?
Actually, it was one person in particular, Dolores Cannon.
Oh, yeah. She just reposted something on my podcast. Well, she's not alive.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the ghost of Dolores.
I didn't know that. And I was like, and because I saw on her Facebook, Dolores' Facebook page is Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
And someone told me I got to check her out, listen to something about her. So I didn't know her history. And then her Facebook page, like, either commented on my thing or retweet or reposted something, and I responded, "Oh my God, I'd love to have you on my podcast." And then I got a response from whoever manages the page. "Oh my God, Dolores isn't running." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm such a loser. Right. Like, what did I just do?" And then she was super polite about it, but like, the page says Dolores. Like, how many? You don't see a Facebook page that says Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson says this. Like, it was, I don't know.
That's true.
I didn't know the history, but the person who managed, I think it's someone related, and she was super sweet, and I kind of got connected to her. But ironically, that page reposted something I made today. That's actually very cool. My silly
you need
story.
A medium to come through and like have Dolores, like get a medium on your show and then have them channel Dolores like they do with Abraham Hicks.
That card right there, Tara is an actual medium. She's been sitting in your seat before.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I will definitely
give
her number before I leave.
So do you believe in that world?
Yeah, I do. I like strongly believe in it. Actually, like, it's funny because I wasn't even like looking to get into Dolores and everything that she does. I was on YouTube. I don't even remember what I like typed in. I think it was just like, what is the world about? It was like some like generic statement. And then like one of Dolores' videos popped up. And then I watched her video through. And then after that, it was like, I was like a spiral. I was like, oh wait, like what's going on? And yeah, like with her research and like all of the things that she's done and the conversations that she's had and like all the hypnotherapy and the people regressing to their past lives and things like that, I'm just like, I feel like there's something to this. Mm-hmm. And like, I also at this point in my life am like really big on trusting like my gut and my intuition, and like something about like what she's teaching and like the studies that she did. I'm like, I kind of feel like this is accurate. I'm like, I feel like this is the thing.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's what you resonate towards.
Exactly.
I get a lot of kickback on this for, people having their own, whatever, believe whatever you want to believe if it makes you feel good. I believe everything's energy, as we discussed in this podcast. So if energy can't get destroyed, as we discussed, it's like, it's going somewhere. So why can't you read that shit?
Right.
But
you know what?
We'll find out.
Whatever gets you through, exactly, and we'll find out for sure.
Whatever gets you through. Is there anything cause losing, for anyone listening that's lost someone prominent in their life, at a young age. Is there anything that, I don't know, you ponder about more than anything at this point in your life? How old are you right now?
I'm 31.
31, okay, 33. Is there anything that comes to mind as a 31-year-old woman thinking about losing your dad at 10 years old, whether it's through some of the processes or anything of the sort? Is there anything that sticks with you the most right now?
That comes to mind as to like, to give someone advice to help them, or just...
That works too, but I was thinking you personally. Like, is there, I kind of asked the question earlier about what you think you have to still work out, but is there anything prominent thinking back at that experience that you wonder about what you went through?
I used to think, like I said, in that moment, like I was so like, why me?
Right. That's what I want. Does that still stick by you?
I go back and forth with that, actually. Like some days I'm like, still like, why me? Some days, like when I'm like down bad, I'm like, oh, I know if my dad was here, it would not be like this, but we're all dealt different hands, so it's just like how you play your cards is the most important, is what I've learned. And I feel like that is what has stuck with me the most. So like, I really try to not sit in that why me energy. Because again, like, you've lost your father at a young age as well. It's like, you're not alone in this experience. Like, we're not alone, guys. Like, so, which is also the most comforting thing as well. That's
why it's beautiful to have these conversations, because you're not, even though we experience it differently and you can't relate, apples to apples, but we're all going to handle this shit. So is there anything that you've done? I know you said you've gone to therapy, but is there any specific way you play your hands to get through those questions? And
honestly, it's trying to live the most authentic life and the best life that I know my dad would like be proud of. So that's like with everything, like with my work, with my art, I just try to stay really diligent about like doing things that are very like close to my heart, and not working and doing things that make me miserable. Really, it's just made me make the best out of my life. That's like what it's really like pushed me to. It's like, there are going to be traumatic things that happen in life, but it's like, you really just have to make the best out of it. And it's also, honestly, now that I'm processing it in my mind now, it's made my relationships with others very interesting. And I didn't know that for a long time, because losing my dad, I used to like rely on the love of my friends, and things like that. And then like, if I felt like abandoned by my friends or things like that, I would like go down this spiral or like feel a certain way. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? But it's like, when I think back, I'm like, okay, I have abandonment issues. I'm doing air quotes. I have abandonment issues. So it's like the things that I long from my friends, it's like, there's a lot of voids. There we go. There's a lot of voids that I try to fill through like my friends and different relationships and different things like that. So that's been like one of the main things that I've had to like work through with the hand that I've been dealt, is just like understanding that, yes, I went through this, and your friend may still love you, and they're going to love you at the extent that they can love you, and not to put expectations on them to try to fill the void of my deceased father.
Wow. Okay. So how did you realize that? Were you questioning why you felt certain ways?
Yeah. So I want to say that like epiphany or realization happened, I want to say, over the last like 5 or 6 years. Because I've had like rocky things with friendships and stuff happen. And in my mind, I'm like, why is this happening? And I think it's because I'm just putting so much emphasis on like riding for them and the love and the loyalty and like expecting them to reciprocate that. And like, people reciprocate in different ways. And then like, even with friends, it's like, not everybody has the same friendship style. Like for me, it's like, I consider friends my family, because like when my dad passed away, like my mom, went and had to cope with it herself. My dad went and coped with it. My brother went and coped with it in his way. And I don't really feel like we were that close at that time. So I really was pouring into my friendships and like I used to always be at my friend's house who like, it was their mom and dad. Like Christmas, I would go to their house and I would like look and enjoy the family experience kind of, because I would like see their family and everyone's opening gifts. And I'm like, I was happy that I was there. I'm like, yeah, but then I'm like, wait, I don't have this. This is weird. But I don't know. It was very interesting. I don't know. I was going off on a very strange tangent there.
Not strange at all. No, this is interesting. To how you. I'm interested in how people, because that's a pretty significant epiphany to have, to correlate those actions and whatnot that you do and bring it back to your experience with your father. That's a real deep, moment for you to figure out. So I'm curious how that unravels, because people I talk to have certain, realizations, this or that, and correlate it back to traumas. I'm just curious how that's unpacked. So that's amazing. That's powerful.
Yeah,
that's fucking powerful for you to do that and have that awareness to do that, and then bring it back to how your other relationships are. It makes me think, I guess, when we have those voids based on missing so-and-so, or whatever your situation may be, how it can turn into a good thing. Like, those are all good things that you're doing in regards to pouring your heart out and loving these other people in your life. But it seems like the way you're explaining it can be too much. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. In that,
even though the intentions are great.
Yeah, the intentions are great, but it's like not everyone is in a space to like put you before their brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like not everyone's in that space, girl.
Yeah, they have a father, we don't.
They have exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because usually I think about those positive things you can pull from this experience and doing exactly what you were saying. But that is an interesting thought of how, okay, you might be putting too much on those people because they don't have the same experiences, they're not in the same space. So I kind of, we have these different love languages, as you will, and that's some real shit.
Exactly.
I commend you for that.
Thanks.
You think you're still working on that, or you think?
I think I'm still working on it, but honestly, I feel like this is the best I've ever felt as far as my like evolution of like grief. Okay. I'm like, I finally feel good. That's why like when I got to come with Roland to do his episode, I was like, oh, I definitely want to do this.
Yeah, I love that.
Like I was like, I'm like, I'm ready to, tell this story and to talk about it and to get into depth about how I feel. Like, but like 5 years ago, that probably would not have been the case.
What do you think? What is that shift? Just based on your progress and evolution, like you said, you just feel ready?
Based on my growth, evolution, and just like all the work that I've done on myself as a person, which I think is really important. I think that everyone should constantly, regardless of what loss or anything is happening in your life, like just constantly working on like evolving and like learning your emotions, learning your triggers, learning what like makes you feel different ways. And I feel like in diving deep and figuring out those triggers for me has just helped me evolve to this point where I can, have these honest conversations and not feel away. And I'm just like, this is my story.
Do you think you're going to talk to your brother?
I think so. I think this might prompt it. This might be it.
You feel confident about that?
I don't know why I'm nervous about it. I'm like,
I mean, listen, everything you said about your brother, he seems like a marvelous man.
He's
like
so phenomenal. Shouts out, Derek. I love you.
Well, Derek, if you're listening, you don't have to come on the podcast, but, it seems like it might be good for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I would love for my brother to come on this podcast.
Why don't you guys talk first and we'll figure it,
Yeah, no, for sure.
I don't want to have like separate conversations with you guys and then you both have to listen to each other's podcasts.
Right, I learn everything about like what happened from my brother's perspective from your podcast.
Now you don't have to talk anymore. So I'm happy that you said, today you feel like you're in a really good place. So I answered one question by asking how you are today. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you might say to someone that's grieving or even in particular to your case, someone that's lost someone a long time ago?
Yes. It gets better. Like, you'll be fine. Like, it may feel like it hurts and you'll never get out of this hurt and you'll never learn how to cope with this hurt, but like, you will. Just like anything else that like you've gotten over in your life, like it's not that like you'll just get over the death, but like you'll find other ways to feel okay about it and to feel good about it. And it's not the end of the world. It is a part of life, unfortunately, but like as long as you have like people around you to support you, like that's what I think is really important too, really like just finding that person that you can be open with, be honest with, that you can talk to when you do want to share your feelings. If you are missing that person, if you're not vulnerable enough to just, talk about that situation with everybody. But yeah, so just that everything's going to be okay. find your person. Like, life really goes on, and that person will always live in your heart, but like you'll be okay, and they'll honestly like be the reason why you do some of the best things in your life. Like, even with you starting this podcast, like, that stemmed from a very, you know, dark situation that happened in your life, and now you have transformed that into a beautiful platform where people can talk about it and share their grief and not feel alone. So like, death almost is like a catalyst to, you know, the next thing that you're supposed to be doing in life, and kind of like setting up your purpose. So it's all how you think about it. You really have to think positively about everything. And like, I know death isn't the most positive thing to think about initially, but you can make good things come out of anything if you choose so.
I know, and the woman sitting right across from me is an example of what she's preaching. So, you know, I think to add on to that, and to not even to add on to it, just to co-sign what you just said, it's like, in the moment, if I could, like, people, I could see myself like being in the middle of grief right now, hearing what we're saying, and like, that's bullshit.
Exactly.
You had something different experience. Yes, you're right. Totally different experience, and we haven't felt what you felt, but I've seen time and time again, you can't get out of it. It's a choice, and it takes time. And it's not going to, whatever this blah, blah, blah I'm saying right now, it's not going to seem like it if you're deep in it right now. It's not going to feel like that right now. I know it's probably not even what you want to hear, but try to latch on to some idea that you can. I think that's really it. Time
heals wounds. Seriously.
Yeah, you might have a scab. I have a scar on my hand, but it healed. It might not look pretty anymore, but it healed.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's a little reminders here and there that it's still there, but it's closed up, and you know, it's a little patched up.
Exactly.
Alysen, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, of course.
And if there's, I know you just gave us already a little bit of a mic drop, but if there's anything you want to say about what we talked about, or anything you got coming up about yourself, this is a freestyle version of you right now if you want.
Gotcha. Yeah. Again, thank you so much for having me. Like, I really love, like I said, everything that you're doing. I think this is an amazing platform. For myself, yeah, I have like a lot of music and different things that are coming out, which I do feel like is a celebration of my dad, because again, my dad was like somebody who was like a very big music influence in my life. So me being able to like play music, I am a DJ, and share my music and share my mixes with the world is awesome. And you can find those on my Instagram and my SoundCloud at Alysen James, Alysen James. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, another perfect example of getting through it, guys. So thank you for tuning in, and another episode of Dead Talks. We out. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.